Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're just finding me. My name is Carolyn and this is our Simple Abundance year. We're following through Sarah Breathnach's book Simple Abundance, her newly revised 2019 edition. Talking this year all about her principles and what it means to live in this simple abundance way. So we've been talking recently in the entries about burnout and about overwork and just getting to the point of complete exhaustion and trying to catch yourself before that happens, right? And what is at the basis of a lot of that as far as burnout goes and everything, right? We talked about being a workaholic, right? But at the basis of all of this really is stress, right? So that's what a couple of the entries in this early October time period are discussing, and I'm going to touch upon them today. I have a kitty helper, my kitty Annabelle. You may hear her chime in and see her tail occasionally in the background. She likes to make a statement on the channel. I'm going to read Sarah's list from October 9th about coping with stress. These are great tips, okay? I'm just going to read each one. So, and some of these we're already doing based on some of the things we've talked about this year. Cultivate gratitude, right? Turn your phone off. Can you imagine? Carve out an hour a day for solitude. We've talked about that, right? Begin and end the day with prayer, reflection, or silence. Keep it simple. Keep your house picked up. We did talk about how chaos can sort of play into the psyche, right? Don't overschedule. Strive for realistic deadlines. Never make a promise you can't keep. That's a big one, right? Allow an extra half hour for everything you do. Yeah, that's a good one. Create quiet surroundings at home and at work. Go to bed at 9 o'clock twice a week. I don't think I could do that. Could you do that? I am not tired at 9 o'clock. I don't think I could do that, but I guess I could try. Always carry something interesting to read. Breathe deeply and often. Move, walk, dance, run. Find an activity you enjoy. Drink pure spring water and lots of it. Eat only when hungry. If it's not delicious, don't eat it. Be instead of do. Wow, that's a big one, right? Set aside 1 day a week for rest and renewal. Yes, look back in my videos for that personal Sabbath entry. I think it was in March, beginning of March. Laugh more often. I like that. Luxuriate in your senses. I did a whole series of videos on the senses, so look back for those. Always opt for comfort. Yeah, we talked about comfort in the home. We talked about comfort clothes. So that's one that Sarah really pushes. If you don't love it, live without it. Some of these are really high standards, right? Let Mother Nature nurture. Yes. No phones allowed at the dinner table. Stop trying to please everybody. Wow. Start pleasing yourself. Stay away from negative people. Don't squander precious resources, time, creative energy, and emotion. Nurture friendships. Don't be afraid of your passions. Approach problems as challenges. I would say as opportunities also. Honor your aspirations. Remember we talked about if you're like squishing down those things that you always want to do, it's just going to be soul sucking. So honor those things. And set achievable goals. Surrender expectations. Yeah, back in July there was an entry about that. About you have to really like give up how things are really going to happen, right? Let spirit help. Savor beauty. Create boundaries. We're going to talk about that today too. For every yes, let there be a no. Can you say no? That's a tough one. Don't worry. Be happy. Play that song if you need to. Remember, happiness is a living emotion. Exchange security for serenity. Care for your soul. Cherish your dreams. Express love every day. Search for your authentic self until you find her. That's what this channel is about, right? We are on the search, the excavation of self on this channel. Don't tweet in bed. That's the last one. We should send this to our current president, right? So I really like that list. Some of those I feel like we're already working on, and I feel like I can get behind them. Some of them, like that 9 o'clock one, and some of the other ones I feel for a little challenge. I wonder if when you were listening to those, if there was one or two that stood up where you were like, can't do that, you know? So something to think about. And then in the next entry, and it's actually today's date, Sarah tells a story about how she had to get up really early one day, and she was going into the city and in a meeting, and she's noticing things like her skirt is riding up and her hair is all messed up, and she basically got dressed in the middle of, it was very dark because she had to get up so early and she didn't want her family to hear her or anything. Her fingernails, she noticed like the nail polish was coming off, and she had to drink like 5 cups of coffee on the train. And so she calls this entry Poise Wreckers. So when we think about stress and we think about ways that we could alleviate some of the stresses, then making some preparations for a situation like this would have helped, right? And so she has some suggestions for us, just like those coping with stress things. She has just like 3 or 4 things about not getting yourself in a situation like that. She left the meeting just so frazzled. She was trying to hide her hands. She was just so uncomfortable the whole meeting, and just never, and she just vowed that she was never going to have that happen again. So we talked a lot about fashion and getting your clothes in order and all that stuff. So one thing she says is, I'll just read it, but it involves your fashion. Never dress to impress others. Dress to express your authentic sense of style. The only way we become truly at ease with ourselves is by knowing who we are. And on that note, never wear an outfit that you've never worn before to an important event. If your clothes need constant adjustment, pulling down a too short skirt, hitching up a shoulder strap, you'll be unable to relax, focus, and function. If you buy something new, give it a trial run. That's a great suggestion. Never drastically change your hair and makeup just before meeting new people for the first time. If you want a new look, put it together thoughtfully and gradually so that you'll be at ease with the final effect. Yeah. Poise is often overlooked when you think of putting together an authentic look. But what do you guys think poise is, right? Wouldn't you think that poise is more like, what's a synonym? What's a synonym for poise? I would say, confidence would be a part of it, right? Charm. These are just things off the top of my head. Comfort, right? I like that word, poise. Why is developing poise so important, she says? Because when you're not obsessively focusing on others or our own shortcomings, our smiles become warmer and our laughter more spontaneous and thoughtfulness blooms. Outer poise mirrors inner poise. Moments spent in quiet contemplation to nurture our inner poise should be an essential part of every woman's daily beauty ritual. That's cool. Remember when we were talking about makeup and the dressing table and things like that? And Sarah said when she puts her face cream on, it's like she's putting on a layer of beauty and things like that. So you could be thinking about how you're putting on some poise as well. Annabelle likes that. When we feel at ease with ourselves, we feel at ease with the world. So yeah, I would say ease is also a thing about poise as well. So what are some of the things that Sarah could have done? I mean, she can't probably affect that she had to be at a meeting early, right? But she talked about having a prepared outfit that she's already worn before. So not, getting caught in a situation. I didn't even say, like, she felt like her arms were really tight in the top of the dress or whatever she was wearing. So not doing that. Maybe laying everything out ahead of time and she was getting dressed in the dark, like I said, but trying to figure out something else. I don't know if I might have told you guys, I did do a video when I was in a hotel earlier in the year, and I had a meeting the next morning, and I didn't want to have a crazy morning. I wanted to be able to still get up and have just a calm, like, waking up and everything. So I stayed in a hotel nearby because it was otherwise going to be over an hour drive in the morning, and I'm not a morning person. So maybe she could have done something like that and stayed in the city the night before, and then she would have woken up and she wouldn't have needed the 5 cups of coffee and just might not have been frazzled. Like, and I hate being late. Like, I am obsessive about not being late. So I like how she said in that stress list, giving yourself an extra half an hour. Like, I typically do that when I'm going somewhere especially important. I will always give myself extra time because I've done so much on the road in the last 7-8 years that I do feel like it always takes longer to get places and everything than you really think it does. So I don't like that feeling of being late. So I want to have the poise of arriving on time and not being frazzled. I think it's because when I was growing up, I had very calm mornings, and I was, we weren't late to the bus. My mom would read me a story. Like, it was a calm morning experience, and I like that. And we talked about that in the morning and evening experience video that I did. So I want to have poise. I don't want to be frazzled. What about you guys? And then these entries are all related, so I'm just going to keep talking about a couple more. So, oh wait, did I go back? Oh, okay, sorry, I skipped ahead by accident. So in the entry called "It's Always Something," she talks about, do you guys remember Gilda Radner from Saturday Night Live? She had a lot of fun characters. And Gilda got a cancer diagnosis, early in her life. She ended up passing away at a young age. And Sarah talks about her book that was called "It's Always Something," right? And how before this cancer diagnosis, Gilda felt like her life was all laid out in endless possibilities, right? And then she got that diagnosis, and then she just immediately felt like, she had no prospects, and just, it must have been a bad diagnosis. I don't know a ton about her cancer that she had, but the moment after being told she had cancer, life's dimensions shrank to 24-hour stretches. So she's just like trying to get through the day, right? And Sarah makes a good point. Why must we find a lump in our breast before this occurs? Like, before we realize that we should just be living, right? Do you know why? It's because the wonderful woman who was very active in her oh wait, hold on 1 second. Do you know why she says, because I certainly don't? And I'm just going to skip over this next part because she tells a story. So she talks about a woman who was just like everybody's ideal mom on, the PTA, doing everything. And when the woman got a breast cancer diagnosis, she actually said, "I'm relieved because now it gives me an excuse to say no." And Sarah says when she heard that, she just wanted to scream and cry. And it's, like it doesn't, like we don't have to get to the point of something like that happening for us to say no, right? It is kind of crazy when you think about that. I pray we never find a lump, but I pray just as fervently that we never squander or surrender another precious day for whatever reason, and that we never wait until something dire occurs to feel justified in setting boundaries. Yeah, so that leads me to the last one I wanted to talk about, which is learning to create boundaries. And I'm going to borrow from Cheryl Richardson's book, again, that I've mentioned a few times. That's The Art of Extreme Self-Care. Because she had a chapter about Let Me Disappoint You, it was called. And in setting boundaries sometimes, and what are boundaries about, right? They can be about saying no, right? They can be about self-care. They can be about knowing what's good for your emotional health, right? Like we had that list of coping mechanisms for stress, and it said, stay away from negative people, right? So that could be a boundary that you have to set up. And that can change relationships. It could be a family member that you have to avoid. It could be that your friendships change with people because you have the courage. We've talked about courage. You have the courage to actually put your own feelings as a priority and not put yourself in certain situations. And it's hard. I get it. Limits are the barbed wire of real life, Sarah says. Boundaries are a split rail fence. When you push past limits, personal or professional, there's a good chance of being pricked as you hurdle up and over. But boundaries set apart the sacred with simple grace. There's always enough room to maneuver between the rails if you're willing to bend. If we want our lives to feel limitless, we must learn the art of creative boundaries that protect, nurture, and sustain all we cherish. For most women, creating boundaries is excruciating, so we don't do it until we're pushed to the outer edge of tolerance. To create boundaries, we must learn to say, this far and no further. This means speaking up, expressing our needs, indicating our preferences. These moments are tense and can easily escalate into confrontations complete with tears, misunderstandings, and hurt feelings. This is why many women stay quiet, rendered virtually mute by unexpected rage and unable to articulate any needs at all. But even if we're mute, we're not powerless to draw a line in the sand. Yeah, that's a good point. Speaking the language of, quote, no, is a good place to start creating boundaries. No can be a beautiful word, every bit as beautiful as yes. Whenever we deny our need to say no, our self-respect diminishes. Wow. It is not only our right at certain times to say no, it is our deepest responsibility. For it is a gift to ourselves when we say no to those old habits that dissipate our energy. No to what robs us of our inner joy. No to what distracts us from our purpose. And it is a gift to others to say no. Wow, what do you think of that? When their expectations do not ring true for us. For in doing so, we free them to discover more fully the truth of our own path. Of their own path. Saying no can be liberating when it expresses our commitment to take a stand for what we believe we truly need. I feel like I'm pretty good at setting boundaries. I haven't struggled to speak my mind. Sometimes I have trouble expressing my emotions, especially in relationships, like a romantic situation. Like I don't always know how to capture what my emotional needs are so I can shut down. But in regular situations, like in work or in my personal life, I feel like, and it's probably because I just have had a lot of experience with various things and knowing that I have to set boundaries, that I feel like I've done well. Like, I will no longer volunteer for committees. I am constantly asked because I tend to be a leader and I like to help out with things. But I'll have someone say, like, oh, this would be great if you could take this over. And I've gotten to a point where I can handle those things with grace, and I don't have any feelings about saying no. Because I know for sure from past experience that when I've been on committees, especially if it's like something that I enjoy, like say I was involved with an organization and then they asked me to be on the board of directors. I've done that twice. And in both situations, I ended up having such a negative experience in that committee or board of directors or whatever it was, that I didn't even want to be associated with the positive experience I was having prior to doing that. So I don't have to explain that when someone says no. I tend to say it's something about my work-life balance. Like, remember I talked to you guys recently about how I would say to someone, like, I don't answer my phone after a certain time? Or I've told you guys I'm not a phone person, and I've said things like, I'm not a texter, So if I'm emailing you, I'm sitting at my desk and you have my complete attention. I'm not out on the road just sending off a quick message on a mobile device. So I'm not afraid to have those sort of weird boundaries. And as I said to you before, I get a pretty interesting and positive reaction if I do say those things. So let's look at what Cheryl says about setting these boundaries here. She has a couple of good things. Buy yourself some time is her first tip. So somebody asks you to do something that you kind of know you don't want to do it, but in the moment you're not ready to say no. And so saying something like, that sounds really interesting, I'd like to give it some thought, or I need to speak to my spouse about it, or something like that. And the other part of it is laying out that there may be an obstacle. So maybe it might be, I have to check with my spouse or whatever. And just to let you know, I do have to go home and let the dog out. I don't know, something like that. Like I have to be mindful of my dog at home or something like this, so that you're already setting it up. So like you probably know already you're going to say no, but you just need to buy yourself some time and handle it a little more comfortably. Or maybe you actually are contemplating it, like you're not really sure how you feel yet about it. So buying yourself some time and also laying the groundwork for the fact that there may be, like, that you're not fully committed to saying yes is a good thing. Do a gut check. That's a good one, right? In any situation. So maybe you bought some time and then you really sit with this, like, the last time I was on a committee, it was a mistake. So this doesn't feel good. I don't want to do it again, and sitting with it. So it'll make it easier when you go to say no. Tell the truth directly with grace and love. Yeah. So like an example Cheryl gives, so somebody's asked her to do something, and you can use your self-care as a reason for it too, Keep in mind that being honest about your commitment to self-care is almost always something people can hear, understand, and respect. So something like this would be ideal for just about any situation. And that would be, in an effort to take care of myself and to spend more time at home, I need to decline your offer, although I'm honored that you asked. That makes me laugh because I guess it was about a year ago when, again, another situation with an organization that I was a part of, and they were like, oh, you should be in charge of this, you're so organized and everything. And I just said, thank you so much, but I respectfully decline. And that was all I said. Like, I didn't, and it was fine because actually the person that wanted me to do it, I think had done it the year before, and it was just like, I would never want to do it, It's like she couldn't wait to get someone to take it over. So I think she understood, but I don't, the boundary thing, I don't think I have issues with it. What about you guys? I do think it's often something that a lot of people can struggle with. Annabelle's chiming in again. All right, I'm rambling on. I hope you got something out of one of these topics that we talked about. And I will be back with more. I don't know when, because I mentioned that life is pretty nuts right now. But we have some other great entries coming up. I mentioned that we have some things about budgeting this month and talking more about finding your authentic self and getting your bearings in so many different ways. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.